I was thinking about the logistics of, like, a really high-stakes business trip.
Okay.
Say you're a CEO. You're flying into a major capital city to meet the chairman of the board. Huge deal, millions on the line.
Right.
Normally, the power move is the penthouse suite downtown, right? You want to be visible, close to the action.
That's the standard playbook. You project confidence, you own the space.
Right. But what if you landed and instead of taking the limo downtown, you just refused to leave the airport complex? You check into a fortified bunker right next to the runway, surrounded by foreign security, and you tell the chairman, "You come to me. I don't think I'll survive the drive to your office."
It completely changes the dynamic. It stops being a business meeting and feels more like a hostage negotiation almost.
That is exactly the scenario playing out in Somalia right now. And it's not some quirky travel choice. It's arguably the biggest signal of political fragility we've seen there all year.
It's a huge deal.
We are looking at the presidents of Puntland and Jubaland, two massive, powerful states who are in Mogadishu, but are refusing to stay in the city proper.
And we're talking about Ahmed Madobi of Jubaland and Said Abdullahi Deni of Puntland. These are not minor figures.
No, these are heavyweights.
Absolute heavyweights. And their decision to hunker down in the Halane compound is basically a giant neon sign flashing the words, "Trust deficit."
So let's paint a picture of where they are, because Halane compound sounds kind of, I don't know, administrative.
Yeah, like an office park or something.
Exactly. But that's not what we're dealing with, is it?
Not at all. Halane is. It's a city-state within a city. It's a fortress.
Okay.
It's right next to the main international airport. So if you picture Mogadishu, the sprawling city, the red zone, then you have this concrete bubble right on the coast.
Protected by
Blast walls, razor wire, and thousands of African Union troops. It's not Somali forces, it's AU forces.
And this is where the UN is, right? All the Western embassies.
Yeah. Pretty much the entire international community lives inside that wire. The U.S. Embassy, the U.K., the UN mission. It is the green zone of Mogadishu.
Right.
Inside, you've got paved roads, reliable power, coffee shops where diplomats meet. Outside the walls, it's a completely different world.
And usually, when these regional presidents come for these big meetings, the whole point is the optics of unity. The federal government rolls out the red carpet, shows everyone the state is functioning.
That is the script. And the federal government, led by President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, is desperately trying to sell a narrative of normalization.
That Mogadishu is back.
Exactly. That they've pushed al-Shabaab out, they're taking over security. So when Deni and Madobi show up and say, "No thanks, we're staying in the bunker," it just shatters that story.
It's interesting you mentioned that narrative because, to be fair, the government has made some real security gains.
They have, you're right. It's not the Mogadishu of 2010.
The front lines aren't in the city anymore.
No. But better doesn't mean safe. The threat has just shifted. We aren't seeing street battles, but we are seeing what security people call complex attacks. Al-Shabaab pivoted.
So less holding territory, more blowing things up.
Exactly. Suicide car bombs, VBIEDs, targeting hotels, checkpoints, targeted assassinations of officials. So if you're President Indenia, you're looking at that and thinking, I am a very high-value target.
And you're asking yourself, do I trust the federal police to stop a truck bomb, or do I trust the AU tank sitting at the gate of Halane?
That's the brutal calculus. But there's a deeper layer here than just physical safety, isn't there?
You'd think so. I mean, these guys have their own security, their own hardened vehicles. They could probably make it to a downtown hotel if they really wanted to.
And that's where this whole thing gets political. This is where we have to talk about the relationship between these states and the federal government in Mogadishu.
Is that my ball?
It's complicated.
Yeah. Complicated feels like a massive understatement. Let's start with Puntland. They've always been kind of the cool older brother who doesn't want to listen to dad, right?
That's a great way to put it. Puntland's been around since 1998. They've had their own institutions, their own police, a level of stability that Mogadishu didn't have for years.
They see themselves as more of a partner than a subordinate.
A voluntary partner in a federation. They are fiercely protective of that autonomy.
So when the federal government tries to centralize power, maybe pass a new constitution?
Puntland doesn't just bristle, they bite. President Deni has frequently just suspended cooperation with Mogadishu, boycotted meetings.
Because he fears a power grab.
A huge one. There's this deep suspicion that Mogadishu wants to return to the old days of a centralized dictatorship. So staying in Halane isn't just about avoiding a bomb.
It's a statement.
It's a statement of independence. It says, I am not your subordinate. I am a foreign dignitary visiting your country.
Wow, that's a heavy signal. It's treating your own capital like foreign soil. And then there's Jubaland with Ahmed Madobi.
Madobi is a different beast entirely. A former warlord, really, who became a critical ally against al-Shabaab. Jubaland is the buffer zone for Kenya.
And his relationship with Mogadishu.
Toxic. For years. Mostly over elections. The federal government has tried to oust him, tried to install their own people, and they failed every time.
So you have these two leaders who, frankly, do not like the central administration and certainly don't trust them, and now you're asking them to put their lives in the hands of the federal security forces.
It's a bridge too far.
Yeah.
And that's the phrase you keep seeing in the analysis. The trust deficit. It is profound. If you're Madobi, you're remembering all the times the government tried to undermine you.
Yeah. Are you going to sleep in a hotel where the National Intelligence Service, controlled by your rivals, has the master key?
Put that way, it sounds suicidal. It's like those old medieval parlays where kings would meet in a tent, in a field, because neither would enter the other's castle.
Halane is the neutral field.
Exactly. But the problem is, Mogadishu is supposed to be the capital. It's supposed to be everyone's castle. By treating it as hostile territory, they're reinforcing the idea that Somalia isn't a unified nation yet.
Just a collection of fiefdoms.
A collection of fiefdoms trying to coexist.
And all of this is happening right as the African Union Mission, ATMIS, is supposed to be packing up and leaving.
That's the ticking clock in the background. The international community is saying, okay, Somalia, time to stand on your own 2 feet. We're pulling our troops out.
But then you have these key regional leaders signaling the exact opposite.
They're implicitly saying, we only feel safe under the protection of foreign troops, which is a massive vote of no confidence in the Somali National Army.
And if the VIPs don't trust the army,
why on earth should the average citizen? It creates a crisis of legitimacy. You can have all the fancy PowerPoints you want about security sector reform, but this action,
it drowns everything else out. I want to dig into that a bit more, the political signaling. We've established they're scared, and probably for good reason. But is there a leverage play here?
Oh, absolutely. Everything in Somali politics is a negotiation tactic.
So what's the move?
By staying in Halane, they are physically placing themselves closer to the donors, the U.S., the U.K., the UN, than they are to the Somali president.
They're literally closer to the embassy than the palace?
Right. It lets them lobby the international community directly. They can walk over and say, look, we want to cooperate, but the government can't even secure a few city blocks. How can you expect us to sign a new constitution that gives them more power?
It validates their whole worldview. The center cannot hold, so give the power to us.
And it humiliates the federal government. President Hassan Sheikh is trying to project strength, and this makes him look like the mayor of a city he doesn't fully control. It weakens his hand in every single meeting they're about to have.
What about those meetings? The big sticking point is constitutional reform, right? The move to one person, one vote.
That's the goal. And on paper, it sounds great. Democracy, direct elections. But Puntland and Jubaland see it as a trap.
A trap.
They think the federal government will just manipulate the census, manipulate the voter rolls, and engineer a victory to centralize all power. They see the word reform as a code word for takeover.
So the geography just reinforces the political stalemate. They're physically walled off from each other.
And it creates this weird moral hazard. Think about it. If the leaders are doing politics inside a blast-proof bubble funded by the EU and the UN,
do they feel the urgency to fix the security outside?
That's a dark thought, isn't it? If you're comfortable in the air conditioning, drinking imported coffee behind a tea wall, the chaos in the city just becomes an abstraction.
A statistic.
Right. And what about the public perception? Imagine you're a shopkeeper in downtown Mogadishu. You pay your taxes, maybe protection money to Shabab on the side. You dodge IDs, and you see your leaders fly in, get whisked into the green zone, and refuse to set foot in your neighborhood.
It creates an us versus them dynamic, but it's not along clan lines. It's the protected elite versus the exposed masses.
It completely shreds the social contract. A government's first job is security. If the government admits, by its actions, that it can't provide security even for itself,
the shopkeeper realizes he's on his own.
Which feeds the whole cycle of instability. If the state can't protect you, you turn to your clan. Or worse, you turn to al-Shabaab for their twisted version of order.
And al-Shabaab must be loving this.
That's a propaganda coup for them.
Yeah.
They don't have to fire a shot. They can just say, look, the so-called presidents are prisoners in their own airport. We control the streets.
It validates their whole narrative.
That the government is just a puppet regime propped up by foreigners.
So how does this cycle break? The AU is leaving. Eventually, the training wheels have to come off.
The analysis we read suggests that security improvements have to be Visibly credible. That's the key phrase.
Meaning?
It's not enough to have a quiet week. The security forces have to prove they are both capable and, crucially, nonpartisan.
And nonpartisan is the hard part, isn't it? The army is often seen as being dominated by certain clans.
That is the elephant in the room. If Puntland thinks the National Army is just a militia for the Mogadishu clans, they will never, ever trust it.
So until that trust is built,
The walls of Halane are going to stay up.
it's a catch-22. You need trust to build security, but you need security to build trust.
That is the paradox of state building in a nutshell. Someone has to take the first step, the first risk. But right now, with the Constitution and elections on the line, no one is willing to lower their guard. The stakes are just too high.
If this meeting goes badly, if the mistrust deepens, what does Somalia look like in 5 years?
We could be looking at further fragmentation. Puntland has already threatened to act as an independent state. You could see a de facto breakup where Mogadishu controls the center, but the periphery just drifts away.
A confederation held together by nothing but a flag and a UN seat.
And one that's constantly vulnerable to al-Shabaab, who thrive in the gaps between these rival authorities. That's the real danger. While the politicians argue over the bunker, the insurgents are moving in the countryside.
It's incredible how the physical layout of a city reflects its politics. Halane isn't just a compound, it's a symptom.
It's a monument to the unfinished business of Somalia. It's a necessary evil right now. Without it, these meetings couldn't even happen. But as long as it's the center of political gravity, the state is failing.
The goal has to be to make Halane obsolete.
Making the fortress obsolete. That's a powerful metric for success, isn't it? Not how many terrorists you kill, but whether your leaders can sleep in a normal hotel.
And until then, you have this tale of two cities. The city of the people exposed, vibrant, dangerous, and the city of the elite, gray, concrete, and safe.
And the tragedy is that the decisions made in the concrete city determine the fate of everyone in the vibrant one. But the people inside can't hear the noise from outside the walls.
It really forces you to rethink what political deadlock means. It's not just guys in suits arguing, it's guys in suits afraid to step outside.
It brings the human element of raw fear right into high politics.
Yeah.
You can't negotiate a complex constitutional agreement if you're worried your coffee is poisoned.
So wrapping this up, we've gone from a simple travel choice to the very heart of the Somali state. Halane is both a shield and a wedge.
A wedge is the perfect word. It keeps them alive, but it keeps them apart.
And for everyone listening, I think the big takeaway is to look at the where of politics, not just the what. When a summit happens in a green zone, you have to ask what that says.
And ask who's paying for the walls. Because as long as the security is imported, the sovereignty is incomplete.
That's a sobering thought. The walls of Halane are tall, they are thick, and right now they're the only thing holding this political process together, but they are also the proof of how broken it is. It leaves us with a lingering question. If the architects of the country's future are too afraid to live in the present they've built, how can they possibly ask their citizens to believe in it?
That's the question every Somali citizen is asking right now.